Welcome back to the show. Now, you can't talk about relationships without talking about sex.
And as our last segment proved, it is definitely a hot topic. And our relationship expert, Spirit, is here. She's going to tell us if our young adults are on the right track. Now, you can catch Spirit every Friday on 1380 WAOK as she does her own relationship show where she offers lots of wonderful advice to her listening audience. So, yeah. Well, I've heard that you do a good job.
Thank you so
Now,
much.
before we jump into this, you've got a lot of exciting things going on. I mean, you're doing things with Tavis Smiley. And so tell us a little bit about some of the things that you do in terms of offering all of this wonderful advice to your audiences.
Thank you. Well, by trade, I am a life coach. My background is in psychology. And so in addition to doing the radio show, I also have a book that's in production that will be out next month. I have a sexuality and spirituality workshop coming up with Zane in July, so that's big. And there are always tons of things happening, which is why I keep telling people, go to the MySpace page, because I'm constantly updating.
And we'll be giving you that information in just a little bit. So we're going to jump right back, because you heard, again, our conversation with our young adults about the issue of sex.
Absolutely.
Why is this such a hot button topic?
Well, you know, because in society now, everything is sex, sex, sex. Sex is what sells, to the point where we have become not only sexually indulgent, but literally sexually saturated, to the point where nowadays abstinence is not even an option for most of our young people. And so what we find is that it becomes the norm rather than the exception for us to enter into sexual relationships with every partner that we have. And as you mentioned before, over time you do build up quite an extensive resume.
Okay, so what role should sex play in a relationship?
You know, sex should play the role that says, we are taking this relationship to a different level. What I feel for you is not something that I felt about other people that I've dated. And it should not serve as the foundation, as one of your guests previously mentioned. It should never serve as the foundation, but it should serve as another form of intimacy. Sex is a higher level of physical intimacy, but before that comes the kissing, the touching, the holding. And so first you have to have an understanding about where you want that relationship to go to. And not every partner that you're dating necessarily needs to become your sexual partner.
And I think that is so important because, again, that sexual resume can, you know, I cringe to think when you have people who engage in sex when they're 16, 17 years old, and you're still single at 27. You know, and that's a possibility because you have so many people who are waiting longer and longer to get married or they're, you know, in relationships where they may be living with someone. So you really have to be cognizant of the fact that you may not get married soon and you're building a resume.
Right. And even if your partner doesn't necessarily know the number, because that tends to be the big thing. Well, you don't ask me, I won't ask you. We just know that we've had sex before. The problem that comes with that is that your experiences are what you take with you everywhere. And so the more you have to compare to and the more variety that you're used to, the harder it is to discipline yourself to just one partner when you choose to enter into a lifelong relationship.
That's right.
Okay, now how has, like I said, people have sex and sometimes kids come out of these sexual experiences. So how has that been affecting the relationship scene in terms of people entering relationships with children already?
Well, you know, it's a tough thing because what happens is we don't look at the past experiences of our partners. If they have 1, 2, 3 children with 1, 2, 3 different partners, the fact of the matter is that you may just be the next one in line, unless there have been different things to come in that will change the way that that individual operates. So there are a lot of things that have to be considered when you're dealing with children. How soon do you enter into a relationship with someone and introduce the children to that partner? Not everybody that you date is going to be your life mate, and so by moving individuals in and out of your children's lives, what is it that you're teaching them about stability and about solid relationships? There's so many things to consider, but ultimately at that point it becomes more about the children and not about you, so you really have to be careful about that.
I think that's a great point because if you become a young parent, now you have a new dynamic in every relationship that you enter. And when we're talking about relationships, it is that parent to child. You know, not everyone wants to date someone with a child, and you have to understand that every time you engage in a sexual experience, whether you use protection or not, you can find yourself a young parent, a young single parent.
Abstinence is the only thing that's 100%.
That's right. It works 100% of the time.
So where are kids today going to find out information about either safe sex or abstinence or what have you? Where are they getting their information from?
Well, in addition to the same places they've always gone to, which are their friends, books, just listening to, the adult conversations that they're really not supposed to hear. I mean, nowadays with technology, again, as we talked about last week, what you're seeing is that anything you can think about is available to access. And so because we have more parents who are spending more times out of the home, children are being left unsupervised and unattended to access information that they may not developmentally be ready for. So anything that you could fathom is out there.
So what should you do then if you're a parent and you've got teenagers, young adults, and you don't know how to have this conversation with them? You don't even know how to ask because you're scared to know.
Right. And a lot of parents are.
That's absolutely right. So how do you broach the subject? How do you talk to a young person about sex, especially in a time when it seems like all their friends may be doing it. They don't want to be the odd man out, or they have this longing in them for a relationship, but they really don't understand that they might be too young to handle something as major as sex.
Right. Well, I always say that if you wait until your children are teens, then you've waited too long to start talking to them about sex. Sex should be a part of a normal conversation as it's developmentally appropriate. When your children are young, say school age, you talk to them about their body parts as if you're talking about anything else. Did you wash your face? Did you brush your teeth? Are you cleaning your genitals? Those should be normal types of dialogue so that it's not uncomfortable as you get older. As you get older, though, I like to tell parents that you talk to your teens like they are young adults, because they are, and ultimately you are their coach. They will make the plays and make their own choices. But what it's about is teaching children that your body is a temple, whether you're a male or female. It's not about sowing your royal oats as a man, and it's not about necessarily holding on to it simply because you're female. But your body is a temple, and so you need to make and ask the tough choices. Why does this person deserve to have that piece of you? Not everybody is worthy of that, so choose wisely. So the conversation is not necessarily about don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. It's, while I would hope that you wouldn't, ultimately I realize you'll make your own choices. And so if you decide that, then let me give you the tools that will save your life and protect your future.
And of course, that's a great place to segue, because next segment we're going to talk about communication, and we're going to have our guests come back to join you in that conversation, because communication is the key. Whether it's a parent to child, whether it's your boyfriend to girlfriend, husband to wife, we all know that communication is the key. So we'll be talking about that right after the break.